Hey, this is Chuck, and you are listening to Fans with Bands, the podcast where we talk to the fans and the bands they dig about life, music, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about. Today on Fans with Bands, we're talking to Kate Hinote. Check it out. All right. Hey, this is Chuck with Fans with Bands.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, this is Chuck with Fans with Bands, and I'm talking to Kate Hinote of the Kate Hinote Trio and the Blue Flowers. Kate, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Happy to be here.
Awesome. I'm so happy to have you on here. I was thinking back when I first saw you with the Blue Flowers opening up for Duende at the Keju Cafe, and I was like, wow. I mean, the whole band was awesome, but I really loved your voice. And then I got to hear you again. I think it was Corktown Music Fest. And
Yeah.
that was the trio. Both different styles of music in some ways, but your voice, fantastic. So I'm so thankful to have you on the show.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I love singing.
That's awesome. So let's start with your journey into music. How did that begin, and what has that been like for you?
It's not particularly exciting. I was very young. I always was singing when I was little. My mom loved music and had music on all the time, so music was always just kind of in my house. And yeah, I was singing since I was very little. And the old story is that I would give concerts to my neighbors in my backyard when I was like 3, like standing on top of a kitchen fold-out chair in a pink, pretty dress. So that's what I'm told happened. And something about singing Tomorrow from Annie, uh, a lot. Yeah, and I used to sing. My brothers tell stories about how I used to sing Xanadu all the time and dance around the house. Yeah, I just was always singing. Uh, and then I did choir in middle school, and then I did choir in high school, and um, that was most all the singing that I did. But I didn't start fronting bands until mid or early to mid 20s, and
Okay,
I was a little bit of a late bloomer.
that's not really too late. So
No, I guess not.
I'm I believe, but I'm not sure. So like in when you were starting your career, when did you blossom into the Blue Flowers and the trio?
Right. So the Blue Flowers, I guess we evolved from a shoegaze band called Ether Aura that started in 2004, 2005.
Okay.
And that was when I started that was with Tony, my husband, Tony Hamera. And we did that from starting in about 2004. That was the first stuff I wrote. That was the first stuff we wrote together. That was like the beginning of all of it. And then we had just kind of evolved into a more alt country sound, and we changed a couple members. So we decided to switch band names to the Blue Flowers. And that was, I think we actually officially announced it on January 1st, 2009.
Oh, okay.
Blue Flowers. Yeah. And then there's kind of a lot in between that gets us to the trio. Before that, I kind of branched off with David, our acoustic guitar player. I branched off with him and doing duo shows and stuff. And then we were doing trio shows with our backup singer, Aaron Williams. And so we played for years as a trio, and then she moved away. And David and I were doing duo shows again because I was not stopping. That was not going to happen. And and then after, I would say a year and a half, maybe 2 years, a year and a half of doing just the duo shows, I was getting a little bit burnt out because the shows were not going how I wanted. And so I had been talking to Dave about that, and he had mentioned that he ran into Matthew Parmenter at a show. I can't remember the show. They could tell that story better than me. But he ran into him at a show, and he basically said he'd been wanting to play violin, and said, if any of your bands need violin, let me know. And then Dave told me, and I sat on that for a minute, and then I don't know, like a few months later, I was like, let's try it. And then from then on, it was just gung ho.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's very cool. So, there's obviously, I shouldn't say obviously because I don't know. I'm assuming that you're involved in the songwriting in both bands.
Hmm.
So there are definitely similarities between the two, but there's also these contrasts. So for folks that have, not experienced your music, how would you compare and contrast those two, the bands, the Blue Flowers and the trio?
Sure. So the Blue Flowers, that's predominantly songs written by Tony Hamera and myself, and we co-write those. Tony would give me chords, would write the music, and then I would write the melody and lyrics. Um, Along the way, I started using like collaborating on lyrics with Erin Williams, so she helped me with that, and uh, other significant contributions were from Marvin Shoney, a bass player that we had. Brian Talaski wrote one on our last album. Like, I mean, so it started to become a little more collaborative,
Uh-huh.
uh, really a lot more collaborative compared to what it was, but it was just Tony and I writing everything for a long time. And then with the trio, we started doing just acoustic versions of songs that I'd written for the Blue Flowers for the most part, or covers or songs that I'd collected from other Detroit songwriters. So that's what ended up on our album. But also, we wrote for our first album, co-wrote Matthew Parmenter and I co-wrote an original, and then he's a songwriter. Like, I mean, he's been doing it forever. He's a really great writer. So he's been doing a lot of the writing, and we've written a few together for the new album as well.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
trying
Oh,
to
and the
remember.
difference. You asked for like the difference, the
Yeah.
contrast. Um, the blue flowers, sorry, I kind of skipped that part. I don't even know if I answered your original question. So the blue flowers started more like alt country. And then, I mean, the blue flowers have been together for 14 years or something. So we, of course, are going to have different interests and evolve and change and all that.
Yeah.
So there is, for me, there's clear continuity between everything. I mean, to me, there's a line for sure, but I would say people that were listening early would definitely say our later stuff is pretty different from the earlier stuff and got more rock, definitely more rock,
Yeah.
and a little weirder at times. And then we came back to a little more rock. And then the trio is obviously acoustic versions of Blue Flower songs, but then um, Matthew has a progressive background and loves jazz, and so there's been just a lot of elements. The trio was very hard to describe. I don't even know how to describe it anymore. We call it alternative folk. Is
Yeah.
all. I mean, we don't even know what to call it. It's impossible. All over the place.
That's awesome. And it probably makes it a little hard when you're trying to like book a show and somebody's like, I'm not really sure if this is going to work for me, you know? Uh,
Right. It's really hard to describe, but when you just break it down to and you say, oh, it's I sing, and then there's an acoustic guitarist and a violinist.
yeah,
I mean, that pretty much sums it up. It's like, well, what are
right.
you going to do with that?
Right. They know
You
you're not
know?
going to necessarily like, there's not going to be a mosh pit or something in the
Right,
coffee house.
exactly. It's like, I think you can handle us. But yeah, alternative folk, contemporary folk.
Yeah.
There's somebody threw in prog folk, acoustic rock. I think Rob Reichert said acoustic rock, acoustic, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, and it's funny, like, because I do it too. I want to categorize things. I don't know why, but
of
I do.
course. Hmm.
And I think it's like I don't know, maybe it's a human condition. We just want to put, everybody and
In
bands,
boxes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and put them in their little thing, and it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily like neatly fit sometimes.
Right.
So what I love about the music that, with the Blue Flowers and the trio is it's to me like you really get that the honesty and the emotion of um what you're trying to give to your audience. And I know that that seems like that should just be how it is. I mean, that music should be honest and from from your soul. But
Yeah.
there's quite a few bands where that doesn't translate. You get music that's it either feels like it's forced or it's not quite. It just doesn't feel real. It doesn't resonate with that person, but yours
Right.
does. Um,
Thank you. I
where was
appreciate that.
I'm trying to remember where I was going with that. Oh, so like, where do you get your inspiration from? What inspires the music that you make?
Oh, so the vibe of the music, I'm sure I contribute to that in some way, but I'm not the one actually performing the music. So I feel like a lot of the vibe of that is definitely from whoever I'm collaborating with. The Blue Flowers is a very Tony Hamera vibe band. It's just he's heavily influenced, by whatever he's listening to at the moment, and then everything old. I mean, we love a lot of old stuff. But lyrically wise, melody wise, it's hard to say. I mean, I grew up listening to oldies and I mean, I loved Patsy Cline growing up, but I was a late bloomer for music for sure. I didn't really fall in love with music until the 90s when I was in high school. I mean, I was listening to obviously Cyndi Lauper and Madonna when I was little and things like that, and show
In
tunes
Greece.
and Grease, of course, Grease and show tunes. I loved Grease and Xanadu.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I super loved show tunes in high school. So I loved Barbara Streisand. I discovered Sarah McLachlan when I was 16. I mean, that was a huge influence on me.
Nice.
Um, her and Tori Amos both probably were the two of the earliest, like I was absolutely in love with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really don't know. I lyrically it's all just relationship stuff, like kind of vague relationship stuff to keep it interpretable.
Yeah.
Um and but singing wise, I would say my biggest influences would probably be Sarah McLachlan, and I mean I love Shirley Manson, but I don't sing anything like her. I wish I did. But yeah, those I have a lot of influences as far as singing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned like Sarah and Tori Amos like being early influences. Do you feel like, because I know that can change over time, do you feel like they're still impacting, have that influence on you, or have you kind of moved on and now others?
I would say I've moved on. Yeah, I don't listen to them as much as I certainly, I honestly don't listen to them barely at all anymore unless I'm getting nostalgic or something. You know, I, but I mean, if I hear it to this day, I mean, I still know every word and I get emotional. I mean, I can't tell you
Yeah.
how many times I cried at a Sarah McLachlan concert. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. I'm not as influenced by things now because I don't have that much time to listen to music because I'm always learning something or rehearsing and I get so much music otherwise.
Yeah.
I will confess that I am a relatively my friend Erin and I call ourselves geriatric Swifties because we fell in love with Taylor late. Uh, so we're new Swifty fans. So I've been listening to a lot of her, but I honestly listen to stuff that Tony listens to because that's what he just turns stuff on. Even he
Yeah.
listens to music more than I do, so it's a lot of Chelsea Wolfe and Emma Ruth Rundle and Wise Blood. That's the current that's on a lots of
All
90s
right.
stuff. AC/DC.
Excellent. Excellent. So, fans with bands isn't just me talking with Kate. I mean, I don't know if Tony, I mean, I realize it's your wife, but do you have any, if you have any questions for her you hadn't asked her before, or Matthew or Glenn? And you don't have to ask questions because I got plenty more to go. And I'll
I'll
take,
let you go, but I might have a question before it's over.
all right. All right. Sounds good. Excellent. So, I don't know why I like to do this, but I always do. What was the very first album? And I'm gonna guess you maybe you've already talked about it, but album, cassette, tape, whatever that you bought.
Oh gosh, that I bought with my own money, like
Yeah, or it could have
myself.
been birthday money. You know, it doesn't have to like
All
you
right,
have a job, but yeah.
right. I remember it was probably well, honestly, it was probably a Strawberry Shortcake album that my mom got me. That's probably the truth. I remember my first cassette I think I had was Cyndi Lauper.
Oh,
She's so unusual. I mean, I'm reasonably certain. The
yeah.
first CD that I bought with my own money was George Michael Faith.
Oh, nice, nice.
Mhm.
Do you remember what inspired you? Like, what was it about those artists that you were like, oh, I gotta get their music?
I remember, I mean, I loved Girls Just Want to Have Fun for sure. I mean, I was
Yeah.
probably 8 when that came out. I don't know, I just aged myself. But anyway,
Right.
um, uh, I loved Girls Just Want to Have Fun. But I remember in school, people either liked Madonna or they liked Cyndi Lauper. It was like you liked one or the other. And I was like, well, Cyndi, obviously. That's how I felt. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I'm Team Cyndi. Like that's how I
Yeah.
felt. But then I ended up liking Madonna too. At the time True Blue came out, I liked her. And I had her poster on my wall. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then George Michael, That one I loved his songs so much and they were fun to sing. And I'm sure at the time I didn't realize how naughty everything was. I was 13, maybe I did. I don't think I did, but
Yeah.
I remember buying that CD and I remember it was maybe like, oh, maybe not that one, but I had it already and it was too late.
So do you remember the very first time you performed on stage, and what did you take away from that? Like, what
Oh,
did you
boy.
learn?
The very first time, the very first time would have been, other than my, when I was
Other
three,
than the 3-year-old you
the
on that,
backyard,
yeah, yeah,
sitting on a chair.
singing
Uh,
Annie.
the for real first time would have been middle school choir. And I don't remember what I took away from it because I was probably scared to death. I get really super nervous, super duper nervous. Not as much anymore. Um, but for a long, long, long time, I got super duper nervous
Yeah,
until I was definitely into my 30s. I mean, I would get really nervous before shows.
yeah.
Um, and then I did like talent shows and stuff all through high school. Um, I would say I did not enjoy it as much then as I do now because of the nerves, probably.
Okay.
Back then I would say I was just all adrenaline, had no idea what was happening. I just
Yeah,
didn't do it very much. I wasn't in theater,
yeah,
I was usually in
yeah,
a group and I only did a handful of solos, maybe a half dozen solos over the years.
yeah.
Um, but the stage time now is something different. I mean, it just evolved over the years and now I really enjoy that connection with people. And honestly just love the act of singing. It
Huh.
feels very good to me. It's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
Um, it's something I really enjoy doing, like just opening my mouth and letting sound out and having it do. Maybe it. Let's not do a therapy session, but it could be a thing. It could be that I enjoy um, the fact that I'm controlling this instrument of mine and making it do what I want, and emoting with it and expressing myself in ways that you don't typically get to express yourself in life. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
Well, I would think it would be difficult. I've never been. I played in a band years ago, but I've never been the lead singer,
Mhm.
which I think puts a lot more pressure on that person to be the image for that band.
Sure.
Um, and so I would just imagine that it would be hard, but it sounds like you kind of like focused it in, and now you love it. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
I love it. I it did take a long time, and the only thing I can think of that really made those nerves stop happening was one summer the Blue Flowers just had a bazillion shows. I mean, it was just like, I certainly play more now, but back then I remember it seemed like so many.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere along the way it just stopped. Like somewhere I was just like, oh, I'm not nervous. Okay, let's do this. And then it just, it still comes back for bigger, high pressure shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it definitely still comes back. I get nervous. I get day of nerves still.
Yeah.
But it's easier to chill out now. It used to, sometimes I would be nervous the whole set. Sometimes it would take 3 songs. Now I can kind of ease right in, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not performing, but when I'm taking photos at a show, I get like amped up right before because I'm like, I don't want to fuck it up or, do something,
Right.
I don't know, have the camera not set right or whatever. So I definitely get that kind of that pre-adrenaline. Do you have like a ritual that you have to do, things you need to do before
No,
shows to get ready?
I don't think so. No, I was thinking about that the other day because I was watching some comic talk about her pre-show ritual. Taylor Tomlinson. I saw something about her pre-show ritual of like drinking Pepto-Bismol or something. But no, I really don't think so. I physically have a ritual. Everything in me gets dry. I get nervous. I start to have sinus stuff and I start to panic a little, but that's just nerves.
Yeah.
Well, physically, my body does a ritual, but I don't have anything I really do. Sometimes, I'll do some light humming or go, woo, like just
Yeah.
hoot just to make sound, to make sure it's there, check and make sure it's there before I start.
Right. Yeah.
That's about it.
Make sure the vocal cords haven't dried up, 'cause
Exactly. It didn't evaporate. Exactly.
awesome. So, if you could go um, anywhere in the world and perform, so both bands, let's say, And so where would that go? And who would you like to have on the bill with you?
Say that one more time. Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world, any stage in the world that you could perform. You don't have to be the headliner. You could be support for somebody, but who would you like to be? Where would you like to play, and who would you like to play with on that bill?
Oh my gosh.
And I know it's hard because it's like a snapshot in time. Because tomorrow you may think of like, oh, it's this guy or this band or whatever. So,
I have it.
all right.
I have it. It just came to me. So it's embarrassing. I might not know the right name of it, but what's that Red Rocks Theater?
Oh, it's Red Rocks.
Is it called Red Rocks?
Yeah,
So I saw some clips of I think Mumford and Sons, and I was like, that is insane. I mean, I would
yeah.
die to play there. Just so insanely beautiful. And then I think Aaron went there and saw Brandy Carlisle this year or something. And so anyway, I just it's a dream venue that I can't even imagine I would ever play. But someone I would love to play with just because I want to meet them and see them live, and they'll never come this way, is a band called Tarnation, which is a band out of California. The singer's name is Paula Frazier. She was a huge influence on me. I can't believe I forgot her. She was a massive influence on me. Tony introduced me to the band Tarnation when we were first dating. And this woman's voice, I don't know if you've ever heard, I will send you stuff.
No, yeah,
It's a
I gotta
dream.
check
I
it
mean, it's
out.
insane. Nothing like it. I love her.
Awesome.
But they never came this way. There's no way I'd ever see them live unless I went that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's who I would want to play
Very cool.
with.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to. I mean, that's kind of on my bucket list of things to do is to go to a show at Red Rock.
Yeah.
Because well, yeah, just it just looks so cool, and I've seen film of some other bands playing there, and I almost well, I'm trying to remember why I didn't. I think I was just like I don't know if I can afford it, but because who's playing there? Perfect Circle, Pussifer,
Oh wow.
uh, and Les Claypool. They were playing
Cool.
like yeah, but they're playing there 2 nights, and I thought, oh, that would be kind of fun to see, but.
That sounds great. I mean, I also super love rocks. So I have a thing about rocks. So I mean, just to see that, I would probably weep for a while first. Yeah. I can't even imagine what it would be like to see the Grand Canyon now. I saw it when I was 16,
Oh,
but I did not love rocks like I love rocks now.
yeah.
I can't even imagine.
So have you been to Colorado?
I've been to Colorado,
Okay.
Colorado Springs when I was younger. I had a grandparent that lived there.
Oh, awesome. But
Yeah.
not in a while.
No, long time. 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a
Yeah.
question for you, Kate.
Go for
Okay.
it.
Okay, so I've talked to different songwriters, and sometimes they are very um, adamant about melody first, then lyrics, or I've rarely heard lyrics first, then melody. But do you have an approach where you establish the melody first always, or tend to, or did you try to change it up? How does that work?
It's almost always melody first because I don't write lyrics very quickly. And when I'm coming up with a melody, I almost partially hear the vowel sound and the melody simultaneously sometimes. I can't say that's always been the way it's worked every single time. Like sometimes I will have a line and I'll build a song around a single line because I want that line to fit into fit in a certain way. But I would say it's 9 out of 10 times, or the majority of the time, the melody always comes first, and then I'm kind of squeezing lyrics in. And it's helpful if I have something already kind of written, because then sometimes they fall in so easily and it's the best, and your song just comes out. But then other times you have to kind of tweak them and move them and cut them up and make them work how you want. So a lot of the times I build a lot off of one line.
So what
Nice.
about rhyming? Do you try to rhyme, try not to rhyme, or try to sometimes do it or sometimes not?
I'd say both. I would say, gosh, I would have to listen to them now. It's like it's been a minute since I wrote anything. I would say I have probably an equal amount of both of rhyming and not rhyming, but I do sometimes consciously make an effort to not rhyme. I do that sometimes.
And do you, when you're trying to like form out that that melody, are you doing like kind of scatting along to like get placements of for like that kind of, you know how words have a certain well number of syllables, so they have a
Yes, yeah.
punch to them, right?
I have yeah, it's I don't know how I'm honestly not sure how I attack it usually, but the it'll usually be do's or hmms.
Hmm.
Um, but a lot of do's, and that'll give me kind of the rhythm. But then when you're doing the lyrics, I mean, that's the thing that kind of would alter it the most. If you want a word to work, I mean, sometimes you're going to have to change the rhythm or how you sing it or the placement. Or I do, I would say what I do a lot is I have a single syllable over multiple notes, if
Okay.
that makes sense. So
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of it was this, instead of
Yeah.
filling
So you're stretching that vocalization over a set
over
number.
multiple notes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think yeah, there's some singers that do that a lot, where they
A
push
ton.
their yeah.
Yeah. A ton. Yeah. There's some that do it just so much.
Yeah.
I can't do runs. That's not something that is not a part of my skill set. I can't really do runs or anything. So I couldn't do that if I tried.
So I was just thinking of something. Oh, um, in terms of like the putting a melody to the music, do you ever do like sort of invert those? So like songs in kind of a minor key, which tends to gravitate towards sadder songs. Do you try to like
Sure.
flip that around on its head so that it's minor, but you're really giving some kind of positive message to the lyrics?
I think about that a lot. I would say more often I have taken a happier sounding song and made the lyrics not happy at all. I would say that happens more often than the alternative or the opposite. Um, I would say I haven't written a lot of happy songs, so I would say that has not happened. I would have to really go through my catalog. It's weird, but there's kind of a lot now, so I'd have to really think back through and be like, was there any? Maybe on an Ether Aura album, I had one that was a little. Nope, it wasn't. It was not a happy song. It wasn't. It was a very happy sounding song, and not happy at all. Yeah.
So now when you're collaborating and somebody comes up with the chords and these things, and uh, I'm going to imagine, having written songs that you kind of have it feels a certain way to, as you're making it. And
Yeah.
then if they're handing it off to you and you give it a different spin based on the melody and lyrics,
Sure.
have you ever had any things where it's like, this isn't working, or this is perfect, even though it wasn't the initial intent?
Not that anybody has mentioned. I would say with Matthew, when he gives me chords, and definitely when he gives me melodies, and then I'm writing lyrics to it, because he's a songwriter and he's usually writing the songs
Yeah.
himself entirely. Uh, I mean, that's definitely, I can't speak for him, but I'm sure that's been interesting for him having to hand it off to me and then being like, what is she gonna do? Um, but we've only experienced that a little bit so far, because I mean, our songwriting collaboration is still new, definitely still new. I really don't know. I think there's 4 songs now, 3, 4. But with Tony, it was always Tony would give me the music, and he would give me sometimes just chords, like just strummed chords, and then other
Uh-huh.
times really produced music, like a full produced kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't necessarily be how it ended up in the final. And certainly stuff I did with the melody would change things, change here and there, change chords, or he'd get a keyboard idea based on the melody I ended up writing, or certainly that contributed to that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he whatever I come back with, Tony would always just be like happy to have it and be able to keep working. Like he
Right.
just loved the creating part and the writing and the recording. So like whatever I came back with, there'd be some tweaks here and there, or ideas that he had, but for the most part, he was just happy to have something back that he could record and work on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I know that you've been busy, especially with the trio doing a bunch of shows. Blue Flowers have also been doing some shows.
Yeah.
What do you got coming up as far as both bands?
So the Blue Flowers are wrapping up the year this Saturday. I don't know when this will come out, but
It'll
it's
be after, but
Oh, that's okay. So this last day of September, we're doing the Blue Chili Grass Fest in Goodles. It's the coolest
Goodles.
thing.
Where the
They
hell
have
is
a
Goodles?
Goodles, yeah. It's like 45 minutes north of here, and they do a chili cook-off. You
Nice.
can taste and vote on chili. It's just the coolest.
Awesome.
And the organization itself does a ton of work to encourage and support and facilitate young people interested in music and
Oh,
playing.
awesome.
Yeah. Oh, here comes my mom, I think.
Oh, she she was on and
Oh,
she
she
left.
went away. She's like, nope, forget it. Anyway, so yeah, so that's the Blue Flowers. We're wrapping up the year with that.
Okay.
But the trio has a ton of stuff coming up. We're Sunday, we're playing in Milford at a place called River's Edge. Uh, the following weekend, we're playing a benefit for Jennifer and Dylan.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Kaju, we're doing that. Um, the following weekend, we're doing a fundraiser for Washtenaw Literacy in Ann Arbor.
Really?
Yeah. And
Awesome.
then I know. And then the following weekend, we're this one, that's probably the last big weekend we have. That is the Muskegon Library in Muskegon on Friday, October 20th, Hackley Public Library. Uh, then Saturday, the 21st, we're at the Erickson Center for the Arts in Curtis and the UP.
Nice.
Yeah. Didn't you go to
Awesome.
the UP? I think you went to the UP this year. I think I saw that.
Yeah. Oh man, Curtis is
So,
great too. Are you
oh,
staying
it's
at would you
beautiful.
have you played at Chamberlain's?
Chamberlain's,
Yeah.
yes. It's the coolest place. It's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're actually staying there.
Oh, good.
Love it. And uh the 22nd, we're at Sunday the 22nd on the way home, or we'll have to stay over because it's still too far, but Harbor Springs, it's called Pond Hill Farms.
Okay, cool.
It's just a really cool spot. And they're having like a fall fest. We're playing that. That should be a blast.
Yeah.
And then we're doing we're trying to pull off a big local show on November 1st. Can't remember if it's a Friday or Saturday. I think it's a Saturday. Right? November 1st. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Oh, it might be a Thursday. Might be a Thursday.
Yeah.
Um, it's a weird day of the week. I think I remember.
Well,
But
wait,
the Berkeley
Saturday's the
Coffee,
28th. 28th, 29th. Yeah.
30,
That
31.
might be the middle of the week.
I think it's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
It is.
Is
It's a
it
Wednesday.
November
Wednesday,
the
November
1st?
1st. Thank you. I intentionally
November
chose
1st?
Wednesday.
Yeah,
What?
November 1st.
Yeah, November 1st at Berkeley Coffee. And for that one, this will be a very collaborative show for us. We're gonna have Faye Burns join us on some stringed instrument. We're thinking maybe baritone guitar. We haven't quite decided yet. We're still working that out. And then Erin Williams, the singer from the Blue Flowers, she's gonna sing with us. And then Emily Rose is gonna join us and do some of her own stuff too. So yeah, that's the one we're really gonna be hoping to get people out for.
That'll be cool. That sounds
Yeah.
good. Yeah, so plenty of stuff that'll take you almost into December. Yeah, well, early
Yeah,
November.
for sure.
Yeah.
We're gonna go up north one more time, I think, to Sheboygan in November. But other than that, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and Lapeer. I forgot about Lapeer, November 14th or something. There's a ton. It's a lot, but it's winding down for sure. I thought last year was gonna be the most. I have to count them. This one might have tied it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you guys kind of like quiet down for the winter, or do you just keep going?
Yeah, I feel like I didn't always quiet down for the winter, but it is definitely not fun to gig in the winter. I mean,
Yeah.
especially if you have a ton of gear, and then your gigs are basically banking on, no snowstorm.
Right.
Because people just don't come out like they used to, generally, but also in the winter. Any excuse to not go, oh, it snowed. No, I'm not going. And I feel the same way.
Yeah.
So you kind of, if you're going to do it in the winter, I feel like it's got to be something really special. Christmas shows are fun, but I haven't done those in a couple years.
Yeah.
But really, I need to wind down this year because the trio needs to finish our second album. That's what we're working on. I think we're 6 or 7 songs in. We got to get it done.
Nice. And are you doing that there at the studio that you have at the home?
We haven't totally decided what we're going to do. The last one, I think it'll be similar to what we did last time. But I'm guessing the Temper Mill Studios in Ferndale will be involved. We'll do some stuff there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if we'll, where we'll do overdubs. We haven't quite figured all of that stuff out yet, but definitely some stuff will happen here in this room. That always happens. Yeah.
So what's been the most, would you say, like unusual place that you guys have played?
Oh my gosh, racking my brain. There was a pretty unique one this year. We played at this place called the Jinx Building in Cuyahoga Falls. I hope that's how you say it. I think it's Cuyahoga Falls.
Uh-huh.
Just south of Cleveland by Akron, I guess. But it was like an old, oh my God, Matthew, do you remember what that building was? It was like an old auto shop or something.
It was, as I recall, on the wall, they had a picture of an electrical auto supply store. It was like
Yeah.
auto supplies and electronics for autos, but it was like from way, way back. They had an old picture on the front of the store. Then they
Yes.
converted it to like a bakery, coffee store, I don't know, like kitschy stuff.
Kitschy stuff. It was like the Rust Belt Market a little bit, but
Okay.
not so Etsy like. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like Etsy in real life like Rust Belt is.
But then they had a back room that was like a big garage with a carpet, and it was like a performance venue.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
wow.
very, I can't even and that room is impossible to describe, but that was probably the one of the uniquest, most unique. Is that a word? Is
Yeah.
uniquest a word? Most
Yeah.
unique places that we've played. Yeah, and it was just huge. And there was like a downstairs with all these little shops and cool art and things like that. I can't think of any weirder places. Well, it seems like there should be. It seems like there's been some pretty nutty things. Um, but maybe that's just us. I don't know.
Yeah.
The coolest thing was in West Virginia, we played at this great spot called Jean's Beer Garden. And we played upstairs. It's totally a music place. It's a music joint. They have music all the time. Cool stage, very tiny, but cool stage upstairs. Lots of wood. And it was just a cool, very cool spot. But then afterwards, after we're done playing, we had this really fun show. Met all these wonderful people. They were so nice. They were hanging out with us and stuff. But afterwards, he took us downstairs and showed us his speakeasy. And I was like, well, this is where I want to play. It was so cool. It was beautiful.
Awesome.
But yeah, maybe the weirdest thing we ever did, I'll say the weirdest thing we ever did was summer of 2020 when we weren't playing a ton of shows.
Right.
We ended up getting a festival in Battle Creek, and we were trying to pick up a gig on the way back forever. Like for months, I was trying to get anybody in Jackson to book me because it was on
Yeah.
the way back from Battle Creek.
Uh,
And no one would even like think about it. Like it
right.
was like they were like, maybe. No, nobody. So we ended up going to this place called Cascades Park, I think it's called. Cascade something. It's like a waterfall that was not on when we were
Oh.
there. There was really nothing going on there. But we just set up in the middle of like a field for people that were like had their children at the park and were like getting ice cream and stuff. And we're just like, here we are playing music. And we did get I want to say 10 people total maybe saw us, but maybe 4 actually paid real attention to us. That was one of the most bizarre things we ever did, but it was still fun.
Now, have you guys ever done gigs where you're the entertainment for a party, but people aren't really paying attention?
Sure.
And how do I mean?
Actually,
Do you try to avoid those? I would think you would, but
yeah. I would actually say no. The parties that we've played, the people there were the audience.
right.
Like they actually sat and listened to us. We've done 3 private parties, and thinking through them, all 3 times they just sat there and watched us. We had an
Yeah.
audience. It was pretty cool.
I'm just thinking of like, because I've been to a couple shows recently where the music wasn't the main event. Like they had somebody booked
Sure.
at a brewery or something. And so they're playing, but everybody's just like chattering and doing their
Oh,
thing.
that happens all the time. So maybe not at a party, but we have gigs like that all the time.
That sort of
That's,
drives me nuts. But
yeah. So there's plenty of places that we play. And it's like I can't fault anyone. They want to have music. They want their people to come in and enjoy the music. So
yeah,
it's like, who's even at fault there other
yeah,
than the
yeah.
people? But they didn't come there to see you, so you can't really fault them either. It's really hard. But so we've played plenty of those gigs where we're set up in the corner and people are eating and no one is playing any attention. And you just there's been gigs where I literally can that's all I can hear is people talking.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just laugh it off. I can't remember the last time I got like truly frustrated by it, but because I just am used to it now, but
Yeah,
it is hard. I mean, it can be very defeating because because then at that point you're just like, okay, I just want to get one person. Yeah, I just
right.
want one person to be like listening.
Yeah,
And a lot of the times we get that, but it's like, how much can they really hear if they're like craning their head to like hear any part of you?
yeah. That's how I felt this weekend because I was at a brewery and I loved being there and I was having a great time, but there was some playing that I really liked and
Oh,
could barely hear them, you know. I'm like, God darn
right.
it. But I also, you know, was I don't know. It was weird. So
It's hard. It's hard. There's places too. You don't want to be intrusive. You're like, these
yeah,
people want to like hang out with their friends. You don't want to be like, listen to me. Like when they want to talk to
yeah.
talk
Shut
to
the
their
fuck
friend that
up.
they
Yeah,
right. They haven't seen their friend in 6 months and they're like, we have to listen to this band.
yeah.
Okay.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or the opposite, where you went to a place because you think it's gonna be like sort of chill and there's some background music, but then the
Right.
band's so fucking loud, you're like, fuck. You know?
Right. Exactly. I know. I definitely try to yeah, I don't want to keep people from having their conversations. But you also, I mean, there was one time I don't want, I'm never gonna, I would never call out a venue, but there was one time we were right in front of a like 8 top table. And I mean, literally, I would say that the back of the person in front of me was a foot and a half from me, 2 feet at most. I mean, right there,
Yeah,
eating their dinner. And it was a family and they were beautiful. I mean, it wasn't like, it's like, what are you gonna
yeah.
do? But the dad was just shouting over us the whole time for like 2 hours. And I remember the daughters, the two, they were probably 10 and under, 2 daughters, but I remember that by the end they were both kind of like you could tell they were a little embarrassed.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, what do you do? You can't,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I guess I could have handled it better and somehow tried to call him out, but I don't know what I would have said.
Right. Exactly. Oh Lord. So if you were gonna say you you just met somebody and you're talking about your music, but you kind of want to give them a sense of where it comes from. What would be like 2 or 3 albums that you would say you need to listen to these three and you'll get a sense of who I am, what I'm
Oh,
about
sure.
musically.
I would say, hmm, I would say At the Edge of Disaster, a Blue Flowers album that came out in 2014. I would say I knew myself pretty well as a songwriter by then. I had more intent. I wasn't just kind of guessing and hoping it worked out okay. um, that one I feel like uh I kind of honed my craft a little anyway. I'm not saying there weren't songs that I wrote before that I still think are okay. Stealing the Moon was another one I wrote when I was that album came out in 2012 and I was pregnant the most of the time I wrote it. So I was just I was just an entirely different human being. So that was interesting to write. But so the three I would say At the Edge of Disaster, uh Circus Fire, because that's when I felt that was 2018, and that's when I felt like I really was actually saying some things rather than just singing the vague relationship stuff. I was actually like wanting to put um just more into the lyrics and
Yeah.
more a little bit more vulnerable, I guess you could say. A lot of
Mhm.
that too was also written with Erin's lyrics. So collaborating with her, that was a fun thing. Um, and then can I say the Future Trio album? Can I say
Yeah,
that
yeah,
will
yeah,
probably be
yeah.
because I definitely have stretched myself on that with songwriting. So I think once that's out, that's the third one because
Nice.
that's gonna be the first trio album is definitely me because there's songs that there are some songs that I wrote on it, but like I said, it's a lot of other Detroit songwriters that gave me songs. So that one really is just showcasing the musicians more than anything. I mean, the songs are good, but like
Yeah.
me, it's really just about my voice on that album.
Right. Right. So, oh shoot, I almost lost I did lose my train of thought. Oh, so as far as like, the future album, I know we talked a little bit about it, but do you have a time frame that you're hoping for? I know you were trying to like get some gigs
Hard.
out of the way to
Yeah, yeah. I keep like having to set it back because I keep hoping that we'll, have made more progress, but we're actually making a little bit of progress now. So that's good. If we're moving along a little bit faster pace, so I can see like, oh, okay, there's only this much left and we could actually get this done.
yeah,
So I would say at this point, we're hoping to get it out in the spring is the hope. Yeah,
awesome.
because we
Uh,
gotta record it and we're who knows? We gotta
yeah.
finish writing it first. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's the big part. Um,
Mhm.
I think it's great because I bought a few of the Blue Flowers albums on vinyl,
Yeah.
and I'm curious, um, how do you like to consume music when you get a chance to listen? What's your favorite way of listening to music?
I mean, I still love CDs. I don't listen to CDs as much as I used to. I do have a CD player in my car and I could,
Uh-huh.
but a lot of the times I'm just in such a hurry, I end up streaming in the car. Um, and then, but I did start buying some vinyl when I when I fell in love with Taylor Swift.
Awesome. At record store day?
Yeah. But Tony, I mean, honestly, I would say the most music that I listen to like leisurely, like I'm not trying to learn something, is the
Yeah.
music that Tony plays in our house, which is all the time. And he doesn't spin vinyl as much as he used to upstairs. It's mostly playlists and stuff like that, some CDs.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I super appreciate like putting on vinyl. I have more than Taylor Swift, I promise. But I do appreciate putting on vinyl and listening to vinyl. I think that's a I don't know, it just makes me feel good to listen to music that way.
yeah.
But forever and ever, I mean CDs. I always buy CDs. If people sell CDs, I buy their CDs. I
Yeah.
love CDs. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually overheard I was in Grand Rapids Saturday and I was at Vertigo Music. Have you ever been there?
No. Mm-mm.
It it's one of the best record stores in the state. I
Oh,
mean,
awesome.
super cool. Great selection. But I heard him saying that it's getting harder for because vinyl's gotten so huge. Like
Mhm.
because you mentioned CDs. Like some people aren't even putting out CDs anymore. They're just like
No,
screw it. Just it's digital. Download it off Bandcamp, buy it.
that's what I mean, that's what like everybody's doing now. Nobody really wants to put out CDs, but I don't know, I might be a little stubborn in that way. I just I like it. I like having that to sell at shows so that
Yeah, something
people can
physical.
have something to go away with. I've already started, scheming and thinking about like there has to be a way for people that literally just Sunday somebody said to me, I wanted to buy your CD, but I have nothing to play it on. I mean, somebody just said that to
Oh
me.
wow.
Like, I
Wow.
really want to buy your CD, but I have nothing to play it on. He's like, are you on Spotify? And I was like, yeah. Like, also Bandcamp. I was like,
Yeah,
you're not going to do that though.
yeah, yeah,
If you do, it'll just be to show. It'll just be to give you money, but you're just gonna stream
yeah.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can. Pretty sure I should look in that and figure it out. But I'm pretty sure that with Bandcamp, you can set up playlists of your stuff and stream it
Oh, okay.
from the Bandcamp app.
Oh,
Um,
so if I can get people to download the app,
yeah,
then
I
I can get
think
them
I'm
to
gonna
stream
I'm
it
gonna
that
look at
way.
that and like that's gonna become my new
Mission?
mantra and mission. Yeah, because
Okay.
uh, I nothing. Well, I don't know. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other about Spotify, um, other than I'm not super crazy about the fact that musicians don't get paid anything, and I
Of
would
course.
prefer if you bought that Bandcamp, you have to typically you get a little sample of something or one song,
Right.
and then the rest you got to buy. So, yeah, I would prefer that method.
I think the streaming, I mean, I don't think you get paid for streams on Bandcamp anyway. So it's like if they don't download it, you're still not getting paid.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Man, we got to find a way.
That's a whole
Uh,
nother podcast for sure.
it
Yeah.
is. Well, it's we're constantly struggling with that ourselves because you know, just trying to encourage folks to support your art, whatever that may be. It can be kind of challenging, even when you
Uh,
say it's just
Definitely.
like maybe $1. It's like
Yeah, exactly. Just $1. That would be nice. Because that's like, 1,000, 3,000, I don't even know, so many streams
yeah,
uh,
yeah, it
for just a
is.
dollar. It's hard to fault it because I use it too. I
Yeah,
mean, I can't really complain. I use it too. Anything I want to hear is just like, there it is. You
yep,
know, it's too
yeah.
easy.
I,
Um,
I I use it to like do some research. Like if I'm not familiar with a band or somebody tells me,
Right.
like the band you mentioned, which I'm forgetting the name, but I can go back and find it. But I would look on Spotify and try to, so I could check it out and say, oh,
Well,
I
I'm
like.
gonna send you songs from there's songs. If you're gonna listen to them for the first time, I want to send you specific songs. So I'll
All
send
right,
you a couple
cool.
songs that I want you to
All
listen to
right,
first, and then if you like it, you can dive in.
okay, cool. That's always better too, I think, when somebody kind of helps curate something for you,
Yeah, for
which is the
sure.
kind of the fun thing with Spotify playlists, because you can say, hey, check this out,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
yeah, which
Yep.
just reminded me, I don't have, maybe I do. I have Blue Flowers on the playlist for fans with bands, but I don't know if I have your trio. Gotta look and see.
Let's fix
Got,
it. Yeah.
yeah, I know. Gotta remedy that. Well, Kate, thank you so much for being on Fans with Bands.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I've
Yeah.
wanted to do it forever. I was too chicken, but I'm glad I did it.
Well, I just have one last question,
Okay.
and that is pineapple or no pineapple on pizza?
Pineapple all the way.
Oh, awesome. Excellent. Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite combo?
It's pineapple and pepperoni. I love it so much. Yeah.
Really? Awesome.
I love it.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, great. Well, again, Kate, thank you. And hopefully I'll catch a show sometime soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this.
Okay. See ya. Many thanks to Kate, Matthew, Tony, and Glenn, aka David, for joining me on this episode of Fans with Bands. I love Kate Hinote's music, both with the trio and the Blue Flowers. Every episode I feel blessed to get a chance to talk with these great musicians in Michigan. Kate is extremely talented, and it was a pleasure to spend this time with her. Be sure to keep up to date with Kate's upcoming shows by checking in on our website and following her socials. See the show notes for all the details and links. Bands are nothing without you, the fans. Purchasing music and merchandise is critical to their survival. If you can help out your favorite bands, please do. If you're in Michigan, consider following the Playing in Detroit Area Tonight and SE for Southeast Michigan Music Facebook pages. They are fantastic places for bands and bands to support each other and share our combined love of music. Thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast service to get each and every episode of Fans with Bands. Spread the word by rating the show, telling your friends, telling your neighbors, telling your family, telling your priest, tell everyone, and leave a comment. We want to hear what you think. You can keep in touch by following us on social media. This is a Life in Michigan production. Until next time, be well and kick out the jams.